Welcome back to the channel. We're back with our Lost Caverns of Ixalan Commander with Aclazotz, Deepest Betrayal. For 5 mana, we get a 4/4 with lifelink and flying, where whenever Aclazotz attacks, each player discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card, so a little bit of draw power there. And whenever an opponent discards a land card, create a 1/1 black creature token with flying, allowing to create quite a bit of tokens, because we're going to be making our opponent discard plenty of cards here with this deck in order to potentially swing over them, in order to deal enough damage to win a game. We also have other ways to protect Aclazotz in order to make sure he could deal that damage, in order to stay on the battlefield to keep creating those bats. Other ways to benefit off of our opponent's discarding cards. Other ways to make our opponent discard those cards here in the deck. But that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. We start off with Arcane Signet, as we do with most decks, for that mana there. Bolus the Citadel. Why stop at just the cards that we have in our hand? Let's go ahead and cast them off the top of our deck in order to win a little bit faster there. We may have to use a little bit of life, but with the life link on this card and the life we gain from some other cards, it's worth it. Gets Grimoire. Whenever an opponent discards a card from his or her hand, you may draw a card, allowing you to draw quite a bit of cards anytime he attacks. It doesn't necessarily matter if your opponent has a card to discard or not. You're drawing a card either way now. Jet Medallion for some cost reduction. Lightning Grease for that protection there on Aclazotz, and also making sure you can swing in for that lifelink flying damage for us. Soul Ring in order to get some additional mana. Swiftfoot Boots for that haste and that protection. And Turgor, God of Fright. Whenever an opponent discards a card, put that card from the graveyard onto the battlefield under our control. We're going to make our opponent discard plenty of things. This way, when they don't discard those lands, we still get the benefits. And even when they do discard a land, we still get the benefit. Asylum Visitor. If each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in their hand, you draw a card and lose a life. It can potentially make us lose the game because it's not a May. But, dealing that a little bit of extra draw power does help us out a whole bunch. Burglar Rat. Creature enters, each opponent discards a card. We want to make sure our opponents keep on discarding cards so that they can't get that hand advantage. We also want to make sure we're doing it to each opponent. This way, no one person feels singled out, and, we don't want anyone having those benefits. Crypt Gas for some additional mana here, making your swamps tap for double. Cunning Lethomancer for 3 mana for 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player discards a card, potentially getting you those bats even earlier, or potentially getting you even more draw power to start off your turn. Elderfang Disciple enters, each opponent discards a card. It's going to be most of our opponents not having any cards to cast. We like to see it. Fell Spectre enters battlefield, target opponent discards a card. This one does help us get that one person who did manage to get some cards in their hand to cast. We could put them behind just a little bit more. And whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life. We like to see that. This way we can make sure we actually have a way to deal damage to our opponent, just hoping they don't have a flyer. Hectias enters, each opponent discards a card, allowing us potentially multiple sources of bats and multiple sources of getting everyone behind. Jacked Reluctant Guardian for 4 mana, you get 4/3. Where he deals combat damage to player, exile and return to the battlefield. And make each opponent discard a card, and we draw a card. We get ahead on hand advantage, and our opponents get a little bit more behind. Then, when you get to the final stage, each opponent sacrifices 2 creatures of their choice. This way, if they did manage to get anything on the board, no, it's not. Mind Slicer, each player discards their hand. Maybe we didn't have a hand that we wanted, and maybe our opponents finally got that draw power that they needed. Now they didn't. Doesn't matter, because we have bats. Necrogoyf, equal to the number of creature cards in all the graveyards. Our opponents are going to have to discard quite a bit of creature cards when they discard some cards. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player also discards a card, giving us an extra source of that discard to get some benefits there for Aclazotz. Nezumi Informant enters, each opponent discards a card. You like to see it, we have plenty of that effect. Plaguecrafter, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. We're either making it so they get rid of the thing they manage to get on the board, or we manage to make them discard cards so that they can stay behind. Rankle, Master of Pranks, and deals combat damage to player. Choose any number. You have everyone discard a card, everyone loses life and draws a card, or everyone sacrifices a creature. We could sacrifice our Rankle and have our opponents discard some cards. Or we could just, be nice and have everyone draw cards. Which that's not what this deck's about. Sangomancer, flying. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain 3 life. That's the ability we're going for. Whenever an opponent discards a card, we gain 3 life. making it so that we could keep on going with our Bolus of Citadel. Or, just a good benefit off of discarding cards so that when people are inevitably going to target us with this deck, we actually have some benefit off that. The Raven Man, at the beginning of each end step, a player discarded a card this turn, create a 1/1 bird. Can't block, but that doesn't matter much to us because we just want to make sure that we get some extra things to swing in on our opponent with. 4 mana, each opponent discards a card, allowing us to get that ability off during everyone's turn. Tiny Bone, Trinket Thief, at the beginning of each end step, if an opponent discarded a card this turn, draw a card and lose a life. It's not a May once again, so watch out. And then 6 mana for each opponent with no cards in their hand loses 10 life. That's the ideal position that we want to be in, so we can make sure that we're dealing that plenty of damage to our opponents. Torak, also make sure you have cards in your hand. Oh no, it does say each opponent. Never mind. So say make sure you have cards in your hand because it does 10 damage to you as well, but I was wrong. As I so often am. Torak, Dread Canter, for 2 mana, you get a 2/1 with protection from white. Whenever an opponent discards a card, put a +1/+1 counter on its creature, allowing it to have a big ability to swing in for a lot of damage at a certain point. And when it enters the battlefield, if it's kicked, aka 2 extra mana, target opponent discards 2 cards at random, aka get those bats, get those benefits off of the discard abilities. And Virus Beetle, another way to make each opponent discard a card. We like to see it. Then for enchantments, we have Bandit Talent. If you play standard, you know this card quite well. Each opponent discards 2 cards unless they discard a non-land card. We want our opponents discarding lands, so maybe they'll only have lands in their hand, but no. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 1 or fewer cards in their hand, they lose 2 life, allowing us to deal some additional damage there to them. And at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card for each opponent who has 1 or fewer cards in their hand, potentially allowing us to draw, 4 cards at the start of every turn. Liliana's Caress, for 2 mana, whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life, allowing us to deal some damage. Same thing with Maegrim, opponent discards a card, deal 2 damage to that player. Oppression, for 3 mana, when a player successfully casts a spell, that player chooses and discards a card. They do have to successfully cast a spell, so no countering them. But that's not what we care about. We want to make sure they discard cards and have nothing in their hand to do. Whenever an opponent casts Painful Quandary, whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. They're either giving us the bat, or giving us some other benefits, or they're losing 5 life. See what they want. Rager's Wake, when our opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life. We like to see it. We want to make sure we have that damage on the board. At the beginning of your end step, if you attacked with a creature this turn, target opponent discards a card. That's going to happen quite a bit. And Waste Not, a really good card in the stack. Whenever an opponent discards a creature, you get a creature, discard land, you get some mana. If they discard a non-creature, non-land, draw a card. All those are some good benefits there for us, as we like to see that. Scroll on over here to the second half of the deck. For instance, we have Bitter Triumph for some removal, Dark Ritual for some additional mana to make sure we get ahead a little bit while our opponents stay behind. Darkness, prevent all combat damage we dealt this turn. This way, we could not die for at least a turn. Deadly Dispute for some additional draw power. Go for the Throat for that removal. Infernal Grasp for some removal. Liliana's Triumph. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you control Liliana Planeswalker, which we have Dream Sex, we might. Each opponent also discards a card, allowing some additional discard. Murder and Withering Torment also sorcery removal. And Soul Shatter. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest mana value of their choice, allowing us to make sure if our opponent does get anything on the board, no, they didn't. And for lands, we have Gayer, Reach, Sanitarium. Each player draws a card and discards a card, allowing us to benefit off of them discarding cards, and a whole bunch of swamps. Liliana, for Planeswalkers, we have Liliana the Veil. Each player discards a card. That includes us, so may not be the most beneficial. Target player sacrifice a creature, allowing some removal there. And then -6, sacrifice all permanent target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of their choice. Potentially make it all their lands and all their creatures. Depends, do they want what they want at that point. Liliana Vest, another way to make target player discard a card. Search your library for a card, shuffle your library, put a card on top, allowing you a little bit of search power there. And -8, put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Since we're going to be making our opponent discard plenty of cards, let's get the benefit off of having those back onto our battlefield. Liliana, Waker Dread. Each player discards a card. Each opponent who can't loses 3 life, allowing you that benefit off of that. Target creature gets -X/-X, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. We have also discarded a whole bunch of cards at a certain point, so that doesn't harm us too much. And then you get an emblem with at the beginning of combat on your turn. Put target creature from graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. Actually, now I think about it, we could have put that guy that makes the demons from the Final Fantasy set in this deck, and it wouldn't be too bad. You could get rid of like Murder or Infernal Grasp or something. You have a lot of removal. You don't need all of it. For our sorceries, we have Arterial Flow. Each opponent discards 2 cards. If you control a vampire, each opponent loses 2 life and gains 2 life. It's really just them discarding cards that we want to see with this, because we're going to be dealing damage to them when they discard cards anyway. Awaken the Erstwhile. For 5 mana, each player discards all cards in their hand and creates that many 2/2 zombie tokens. That could be a whole bunch of bats and zombies for us. Or, a whole bunch of damage to our opponents. Blasphemous Edict for a board wipe. Damnation for a board wipe. Dark Deal. Everyone discards their hand, allowing us all those benefits off of all the cards they discarded. And also they draw cards -1. Delirium Skynes. Each player discards 3 cards. That includes ourselves, so, if you only have 1 in hand, doesn't hurt. Doomsday Confluence. XX Black. Choose X where, choose whatever you want, basically. Each player sacrifices a non-artifact creature, create a Dalek, or each opponent discards a card. We could make X whatever the amount of cards our opponent has in their hand, in order to make sure that they don't have any cards in their hand. Feed the Swarm for some removal. Hammer of Torok. Target player discards 2 cards at random. Sometimes there's just one person who's dread. Sometimes there's the one person who has cards in their hand. So let's benefit off that. Mind Rake. Target player discards 2 cards. Overload to make it every player. We like to see it. Knight's Whisper. You draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, allow us to actually have some cards in our hand. Reanimate. There's going to be a certain point where someone has to discard a 9 mana creature spell. Let's get it back onto our battlefield. Oh, sorry, almost forgot. Rankle's Prank. Choose 1 or more. Each player discards 2 cards. Each player loses 4 life. Each player sacrifices 2 creatures. Everything we want to put our opponent behind in card advantage. But something that puts us way ahead in card advantage probably wins us the game at a certain point. Rise to the Dark Realms, allowing us to get all creatures from all graveyards, allowing us to swing in for a whole bunch of damage while our opponent wasn't able to cast anything all game because they were discarding it all. Cyan Blood for some draw power. Siphon Mine. Each other player discards a card. You draw a card for each card discarded this way. Everyone discards 1, you draw 3. Pretty good deal for us. Toxic Deluge for a board wipe, and then Vicious Rumors. Deals 1 damage to each opponent. Each opponent discards a card, then puts the top card of the library into the graveyard, and we gain a life. It's really just a discard we want in that. But overall, some pretty good abilities there. But that's the deck. If you guys like the deck, make sure you like the video. If you have your comments on how you'd run a deck or some other commander you want to see covered, leave it down there in the comment section. And if you want to see more like this, subscribe so you can stay tuned for those. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.